Consider this. Even now, the power to metamorphose some of the greatest obstacles in your life into your moments of triumph is in your hands. But how, you ask? Today we explore the skeletal framework of Stoicism, an ancient philosophy which for centuries has helped people abound in adversity and achieve tranquility amidst disorder. Remember the last time you encountered a situation that took a toll on your patience or confidence? How did you deal with it? Were you a captive of your responses? Or did you opt for a reaction that revealed and was in alignment with your core principles and beliefs? Stoicism helps us respond to life's challenges with courage, wisdom, and equilibrium. Today, we are looking deeper into an important concept that traces its origins to ancient civilizations, but is fascinatingly relevant in the modern world. The skill of conditioning your mind to respond as opposed to react. This concept isn't solely about managing your anger or staying calm when faced with adversity. It is about creating unbiased understanding, a balance in reasoning which helps you face life's challenges with purpose and ease. An ancient example would be the Stoics, whom as some modern philosophers have referred to as the ancient practices of pragmatism. As might be expected from this school of thought, they had quite an extensive coverage on this subject. As if prophesying today's modern world, they said that although there are many things beyond our control, the events that unfold should never dictate the way we encase them in our mind or choose to react to them. What Stoicism tells us, however, is to remember that we should always be focused on what we can control. In other words, it encourages people to detach themselves from external aspects and anchor their values on personal reasoning and choices. This wisdom is what helps us to remind ourselves to reevaluate situations and think through carefully rather than doing the thinking on our feet, which is already too late. Why should this be important? Well, consider just how much stress, anger, and remorse stem from reacting to situations without processing them. This isn't merely some snippets of wisdom which aids in achieving peacefulness, but rather it is a pathway to being a kinder, more effective, and quite simply a better person, and resilient person. Such traits can alter your life, as well as the lives of the people around you. Today, we will have a conversation in which we will utilize modern psychology and Stoic philosophy, combining them to develop a responsive mindset. We shall examine how to practice self-awareness, the necessity of knowing and articulating your feelings in a helpful manner, and how to maintain the overarching perspective, which is something that the Stoics were particularly proficient at. After this discussion, you will have strategies that will help you to pause, analyze, and respond appropriately to any situation that life presents to you. With that being said, let us begin this endeavor together, learning how to ground ourselves in the wisdom of Stoicism, as well as in the ability of our own minds to decide how we choose to respond, in turn, improving the nature of our experiences and interactions. In our pursuit of comprehending the concept of responding instead of reacting, we enter a space where everything is calculated and purposeful, reverberating the most profound teachings of Stoicism. Those ancient Greek and Roman sages, Stoics' modern world, is indeed chaotic, such cultures with different theories and logic blended together. They imparted the importance of emotionally delimiting and controlling oneself, explaining that the power always lies in the ability to choose a desired response to every stimuli. Then why is it critical to foster a response and not a reaction? Picture that you are stuck in a challenging situation, tense meeting, or even a personal issue that needs immediate attention. Human beings by nature will more often than not react emotionally without any cognition and thought. While this reaction is biologically appropriate, it is almost always inconvenient. This behavior in the long term can aggravate conflicts, cause damage to relationships, and inflict harm when making a decision. This is where the beauty of terms and conditions never fail to amuse me. The Stoics have always claimed to live life in accordance with nature and reason, without causing any sort of harm, and rather without virtue and passion. Adopting this philosophy helps us understand how we should restrain ourselves from acting purely on impulse, while instead we should consider every single notion rationally. And then, and only then, we can choose a response that correlates with our true principles, core beliefs, and long-term objectives. Instead of reacting strongly, rather than reacting to something that triggers it, refers to actively taking a pause. It allows you to refrain from the event and let your internal response unfold. This reflective pause allows you to ponder and ultimately select the outcome that is most reasoned, controlled, balanced, and unbothered by emotions. When practicing this Stoic approach, it is crucial to remember that you reserve your emotions instead of suppressing or pretending they don't exist. Stoicism is about understanding the emotion's source and deciding if, nor it should have an effect on your actions. This way, you are able to engage with the world while balancing your percept of inner peace and integrity. But to the statement above, one does not need to be personally at peace to further extend the concept for those around you. Often, over-the-line responses to triggers pop out during inappropriate times in one's life, and those responses affect the person's relationship, their leadership skills, and the ability to endure adversity. Thoughtful responses, on the other hand, do the opposite and demonstrate one's respect and empathy for the experience and the views of others, which in return gives rise to more constructive and meaningful interactions. But even with powerful intent, shifting the mind requires undertaking a more complex, transformative path. It takes painstaking and continuous effort. Stoics, like anyone else needing to adjust their approach to life towards responsiveness, were helped by these ancient philosophers, and some even claim they derived their inspirations from self-awareness and the pause, revisiting the power of self-awareness. The self-aware mind doesn't have to rely on reacting. Let us now look into self-awareness, which stands as a pillar of Stoic philosophy. Stoics place great value on reflection and anticipation about oneself. In our case, this implies being aware of our thoughts, emotions, and everything that surrounds them. Being mindful means having the capacity to manage your thoughts and feelings. Once you achieve this level of self-awareness, you can acknowledge the beginning of an emotional response, and that allows you to choose a more rational response. So, let's look into the practice of pause, which is deeply insightful, yet extremely simple. A Stoic emperor, Marcus Aurelius, spoke about the space that lies between stimulus and response quite often. This space is where we can do something actively instead of just reacting. When you develop a pause habit, even if it is for a few seconds, it allows you to restrain yourself from giving in to immediate provocation. During this pause, try taking a deep breath, reflect, or meditate. That gap is the moment where we can make contact with our inner Stoic. Question what virtue in this moment calls for, and what is the correct action that sits right with our best self. An additional critical approach is reframing, which enables Stoics to stay calm during stressful moments. It requires actively deciding to analyze a situation in a way that reduces the emotional intensity associated with the situation and provides alternate ways of dealing with it. For example, rather than perceiving a complex scenario at work as an issue, you can view it as a chance to develop and showcase your grit. Altering the stories we tell ourselves enables us to alter our emotional responses and enables us to take new approaches. Furthermore, the Stoics believed that it is better to put one's attention on things one can do something about and ignore the rest. Adhering to this principle teaches us how to invest our energy productively, actively engaging only with our designed thoughts and actions, and passively accepting what happens around us. This is definitely not intended to suggest apathy or lack of concern for what happens outside of oneself, but rather to highlight the most effective way of redirecting our focus and effort. Lastly, consistent self-reflection and self-adjustment is one of the best practices for the mind. Stoics practiced self-reflection daily to analyze their actions and how closer they are towards simplicity and virtue. Just like, to conclude the day, we can analyze our actions and how we reacted to different scenarios, whether we acted thoughtfully or mindlessly. This continuous cycle of reflection and change promotes responsiveness and develops the reasoned judgment and ordered calmness that is so esteemed by Stoicism. As discussed before, these strategies not only allow us to remember the ideals of the Stoics, but also motivate us to live with intention, calm, and potency. With an unwavering intention, we recondition our minds, leading them towards responses that are sincere representations of our deepest beliefs. The essence of mindfulness is the ability to focus on the now. It can be summarized as noticing our feelings, thoughts, and body sensations without self-criticism and watching how they affect us. When we engage with mindfulness, we work towards the Stoic goal of exercising self-awareness and self-control with the foundation of strong intention. However, attention is placed in the only part of time we can actually influence, the present. Engaging in focused attention tasks is one of the best ways to practice mindfulness. For instance, breath meditation. Focusing on breath, noticing it deeply, we can concentrate and redirect our attention whenever it strays. This type of exercise is not solely about stress relief. It is a method for the mind to train focus, actively paying attention in the midst of distractions. Another essential exercise is mindful listening, which can be done with any habitual activity and make it an act of mindfulness. When eating, walking, or even doing something less pleasant like cleaning, one can listen to themselves and the world around them. This not only makes the process more interesting, but also sharpens one's mental responsiveness to different situations. Body scan meditation is another very helpful mindfulness technique that encourages one's physical awareness and presence. We are also able to integrate different parts of the body through mindful body scanning, creating an internal dialogue that helps identify and unbind held tension and emotions. This practice reflects a stronger version of the Stoics in considering the nature of bodily feelings and the need not to permit the body to dominate reason. Exercising mindfulness in communication with others can alter how we relate with them. Understanding people requires the whole self to engage with them, and for us to listen and watch without being judgmental. This also expresses the Stoic philosophy of empathy, that in a world where everyone is experiencing challenges, rational beings live and exist. Applying response over reaction into daily life. Mindfulness is an important step that enables us to follow the path of the Stoics, which results in enhanced clearness, calmness, and efficacy in performing actions. These life challenges, though unavoidable, can be dealt with in an effective Stoic manner if the life and situation is approached equipped with mental clarity. It is time to shift our attention to how we can practically use the mindfulness and Stoic techniques we have gained so far to fashion a lifestyle where thinking cuts through reactive behavior. Adopting this approach to enhance moderation, which Stoic living dictates, goes beyond sharpening one's ability to curb involuntary movements. Ultimately, this is about improving how someone interacts with the world around them. To put the concepts we've discussed into practice, it is essential to implement daily routines that strengthen the ability to respond. Picture having to deal with a difficult situation, such as a conflict at work or an unexpected problem. Usually, the first reaction is to respond driven by emotion, whether it is anger or disappointment. However, this self-trained moment is where we need to draw on our social inspirational training, which allows us to stop and think wider by asking ourselves, what would a Stoic philosopher do? This question is not geared towards avoiding feelings, but rather draws on the idea of trying to use the reasoning capacity to look at the situation from a neutral position and understand how one can best address it. Here, we are not getting rid of feelings, but rather redirecting feelings into something helpful using rationale. It is recognizing feelings, understanding what brought them on, and with focus and composure, making a decision that is in one's best interest. Practically, this can be stepping away from your desk to prevent immediate hostile response to an inflammatory email, for instance, going for a short walk. Implementation strategies towards responsive lifestyle. In the event of a conflict, this may also require delving deeper to figure out what precisely is causing you distress and focusing on addressing the core issue instead of merely reacting to the annoyance. You're strengthening your internal system for dealing with the challenges one faces in life by fostering a more thoughtful approach whenever you decide to respond, as opposed to just react, making it easier for you to cultivate a more profound sense of satisfaction. In addition, the potential of this approach increases when you incorporate it into your daily routines. Consider waking up and, instead of rushing out the door, remind yourself about your intentions and plans and how important it is for you to respond rather than react, and then make a point to practice your plan throughout the day. Remember to regularly journal as well and reflect on what you are celebrating and what triad you can learn from to identify your growth areas. Every day should be treated as an opportunity to improve your ability to respond instead of react. You're taking up a way of life which embodies the Stoic virtue of wisdom by accepting this as your path of commitment instead of considering this a strategy to reduce your stress levels or a way to manage conflict. Rationally, you're choosing to live life with intention so that everything you do aligns with your highest ideals. By doing so, you help create a world that is kinder, more thoughtful, and contributes to a greater level of empathy. To move from reaction to response is to experience a deep transformation that calls for greater integration with both the outer and inner world. This is a journey that the Stoics undertook with purpose and diligence, and now, with their wisdom in our sails, we can also seek to endure the seasons of our lives with poise, balance, and reason. Knowing how to respond and when to act is an art as important as knowing how to speak and how to listen. The core of what we have tried to achieve is not learning to control our responses in a singular manner, but rather establishing a reasoned mode of action in our everyday life. Taking that Stoic path, concentrating on what can be controlled, reasoning through action, and seeking virtue can enrich our lives. By cultivating a focus on response rather than reaction, we surely increase the likelihood of taking life's ups and downs with a calm and clear mind. Every one of us will be bound to experience frustration, losing oneself in the moment regardless of the stress level. Through the eyes of Stoicism, every event, no matter how trivial or monumental, is a fantastic chance to express the four cardinal virtues, which are courage, temperance, wisdom, and justice. With every action that requires self-control, not only are we improving ourselves for the better, but we are also making a positive impact in the lives of people around us. Keep in mind that mastering self-control over reflex actions is an evolving goal. This is the journey of growth and self-improvement. Other than this, just like the Stoics, we have to practice measurable self-restraint on a regular basis to reflect on our attempts to do better. This consistency shifts us further away from our shortcomings and closer to our ideal selves. But more importantly, it enables us to impact the people dear to us as well as the society at large. As we conclude this together, remember that you always have a chance to exemplify Stoicism through every moment of life and take responsiveness into account. This threads into composure, perseverance, and one thing that every single Stoic must embody in life: wisdom. The world is a tapestry, and how your threads are woven together is completely up to you. While we have reached the end of this guide, I hope it triggers you to take further steps. Focus on the suggested videos that elaborate on wise living and a well-balanced life. Thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal and choosing a path that is guided by thoughtful action as opposed to instinctive reaction. May the road ahead bring you value, virtue, and tranquility.